Hello, my name is John Nelson, and I'm the Assistant Superintendent from the Chula Vista Elementary School District, and I'm here to share with you about our Local Control and Accountability Plan. We have held 6 community forums over the last 2 months, and we'd like to engage you in learning about our Local Control and Accountability Plan. The Local Control and Accountability Plan is an outcome of the way that funding has changed for schools in California. In 2013, Governor Brown worked with the state legislature to create a new formula for providing funds for public schools across the state of California. Prior to 2013, funding was provided to schools in a revenue limit model and categoricals. At one point, there were over 30 categorical programs that school districts had to implement. With the development and the adoption of local control funding formula, the plan has changed for public schools in California. Now schools receive a per student base amount, and depending upon the grade level span, and one of 3 target groups, low income, English learner, and foster youth, receive an allocation for every student. The new funding formula with local control funding formula, as I said in the previous slide, has different categories. In this slide, you can see that the goal to achieve funding for all students by the year 2021 is $7,011. For having class size reduction in the primary grades, we receive an additional $729 per student. So if we did not have any low-income, foster youth, or English learners, the total amount received per student would be $7,740 in 2021. School districts that have a certain concentration of English learners, foster youth, or low income, unduplicated students as we refer to them, at a certain percentage point would receive a supplement of $1,548. Districts with a high concentration exceeding 55% of these 3 target groups, unduplicated, receive not only the basic and the supplemental, but also concentration grant monies for any amount of students past the 55%, totaling $13,158. Chula Vista Elementary School District has over 59% of students who are unduplicated that fit into one or all of these categories. Therefore, we're eligible to receive not only the base amount, concentration money, and supplement money for our students. With the elimination of the base revenue limit and categoricals, as I mentioned earlier, and the new funding formula of local control funding formula, LCFF, the state government did want to establish some expectations for accountability. So they are requiring all districts across the state to develop the LCAPs, plans on how they're going to utilize the funds for the supplemental and concentration grant monies. An LCAP, or its annual update, is a document that will provide details regarding a district's actions and expenditures to support student outcomes and overall performance. For a school district and each school within that district, an LCAP must describe goals and specific actions to achieve those goals for all pupils and each subgroup of pupils, including students with disabilities, for each of the 8 state priorities. And finally, an LEA, or in other words, a school district, shall determine the percentage by which services for unduplicated pupils must be increased or improved above services provided for all students in the fiscal year. The state legislature in the adoption of LCF funding requires every school district to develop an LCAP. The LCAP has to be approved at the start of every school year in conjunction with the development of the district budget for the upcoming year. Each plan must represent 3 years' worth of actions and services to meet the goals for all students and the various subgroups. The plans that we have to develop, or the LCAP, have to address the 8 state priorities as identified by California Department of Education. These 8 state priorities are all in service of student achievement. For example, student engagement. How are we engaging the students in meaningful learning? Other student outcomes, parental involvement, course access, implementation of Common Core state standards, basic services, school climate, all in the efforts to address the needs of all students to increase student achievement. The 8 state priorities fall into 3 broad categories in the LCAP. For example, conditions of learning address the issues of basic services, which means the rate of teacher misassignments, ensuring that all teachers are highly qualified and credentialed, access to grade level standards, and ensuring that all facilities are in good repair. Also for conditions of learning is the implementation of state standards. We're all working to implement Common Core standards in every classroom in our district. And course access ensures that students have access to all areas of the curriculum and not excluding any particular area. Pupil outcomes encompasses 2 of the state priorities, student achievement and other student outcomes. Data collected on performance assessments and other standardized tests will be gathered to determine how the students are progressing in each district. This will become part of the new Academic Performance Index, or API. Previously, the API consisted only of data from student achievement on standardized testing, but now will be much more comprehensive. Other student outcomes includes performance in required areas of study. For example, this may be local measures or assessments that we have in our district. The third category has 3 of the state priorities in the areas called engagement, parent involvement, student engagement, and school climate. The state wants to know, how are we engaging and involving parents in their students' learning? How are we engaging students more in classrooms? How are we improving student attendance rates, reducing chronic absenteeism, and reducing dropouts for our middle and senior high schools? School climate addresses the suspension rates, expulsion rates, and any other measures around school climate. So you can see that the 8 state priorities are grouped into 3 broad categories, and the plan that we developed, the LCAP, must address all of these areas of the state priorities. Our plan in the Chula Vista Elementary School District has 15 goals that address these 8 priorities. Once the LCAP has been developed, we must take it to the Board of Education for a public hearing, and the budget must be aligned to that LCAP as well. When we develop the LCAP, it is a 3-year plan that shows, in moving forward, what we're going to be doing with this allocation from the funding. The next 3 slides will show the families in our community how did we use the LCAP and develop the LCAP plans for the 2014-15 school year. In this first slide, you can see that the LCAP plan, with its 15 goals, represents, in the money allocated with the LCAP, represents just over 2.5% of the total budget in our school district. The LCAP funds of $4.9 million, plus the money sent to the schools, represents only a fraction of the total budget it costs to run a district the size of Chula Vista Elementary School District. Our current local control and accountability plan, our LCAP, in this slide shows how the support's being provided across the district. The majority of resources, the fiscal resources, is being funneled and channeled for certificated or for teacher support. And you can see the remaining proportions of support to the system, classified and administrative. In this final slide here about the budget from this year, it shows that the majority of funds have been allocated to school sites and just only 7% for district-wide services here located at the Education Service and Support Center. Input from the community, both families and community members, as well as staff, are important parts of the development of our local control and accountability plan. The next 2 slides are a timeline showing our efforts to engage all stakeholders in this process, which began on February 10th, meeting with principals to look at the current LCAP plan to make recommendations for making it even better for the 2015-16 school year. From February 18th to March 9th, we've conducted 6 community forums at various sites across the district to seek input from everyone on our current plan. On March 10th, we introduced the LCAP to the District Advisory Council and the District English Learner Advisory Committee, the DAC-DLAC, and informed all of them that at a special meeting scheduled for April 9th, we would be looking deeply into the plan and asking for input from all members of the DAC-DLAC committees. Also on April 8th, we'll be meeting with the Budget Advisory Committee to get their input on this process. All of the input gathered from the various stakeholders in the community forums will be taken to the Local Control and Accountability Plan Advisory Committee. This committee is comprised of representatives from the principals, cabinet, our 2 labor groups, Chula Vista educators for the teachers. In addition to our labor group for the Teachers Association, we also are involving our classified staff as well. CVCO has representatives. We have representatives from the parent representatives from the DAC-DLAC and the Budget Advisory, and also representatives from the San Diego County Office of Education to represent the needs of our foster youth. This committee will meet and review all the input and make recommendations to the superintendent and to the cabinet as to how to move forward. Following the review of all data, decisions will be made on what actions and services that we want to strengthen, improve, or change for the 2015-16 school year. On May 6th, at the Board of Education meeting, there will be a public hearing where the plan will be communicated to the community as to what it will consist of. There will be an opportunity for community stakeholders to give input to this plan at this time. The final plan and this budget for the 2015-16 school year will be approved and adopted at the June 10th meeting. To prepare you for the upcoming DAC-DLAC meeting and or the Budget Advisory Committee, we would encourage you to download the 3 copies of the state priority plans for our LCAP and review our current actions and services. And there are 3 questions that we want you to answer as you read these documents. Number 1, what are your thoughts on how to improve or strengthen these current actions and services? 2, share any ideas not currently listed that address these goals. And 3, are there any actions and services that do not meet the needs of the students addressed to this goal, and why? We hope that by reviewing this now, you'll be prepared to engage in conversation with your principal at the upcoming meeting in April. If you have any questions or comments about the documents that you are going to be reviewing, please feel free to contact the district and we will help you with the information requested. You may contact me at area code 619-425-9600, extension 1501. Thank you very much for your time.